Billing system integrity. We'll talk about the billing system. We talk about internal threats. So potentially internal threats is definitely something people will have to worry about. We have heard about telecoms insiders selling data, customer data to third party for profit, right? So it happens and it's a problem, and introducing new technology does not help that. Other system on the network, we have seen telecoms with very good protection on all the system on the network. We also have seen very poor protections on the network. So there are different telecom will do different things, and it's very important, to secure the other system on the network, because sometimes you never know which machine is your weakest link to get to other machines. Availability, we mentioned a lot of ways that you can try to disrupt the IPTV service, either by killing a set-top box, killing a video on-demand server, or streaming or encoding server. And so it just depending on to what scale does people want to disrupt the service. Okay, and we mentioned buffer overflow and the weak TCP/IP stack that you can do denial of service attack. And how about dependencies, voice and data? Right now it's kind of separated, but actually it's not totally separated. You're using the same backbone as the other two services, the voice and the data. So they are doing control through quality of service control and other management on the ATM devices or the different devices on the backbone. Okay, so if the backbone is down, that will take down the service, and it depends on how people handle about the availability issue. Interoperability. There is currently no common standard on IPTV other than multicast and unicast. Everything else is pretty much depends on the vendor, which could be good and bad. The good part is, one vulnerability you identify on one service provider will not work for another. So I assume that's probably good. However, it doesn't mean that you can, hide from people looking for security vulnerabilities. So there could be a good thing and a bad thing both on the interoperability. There are standards on the work. For example, ITUT, who is the organization making ISO standard, there is IPTV work group, and they are actually working pretty hard this year to try to make some standard work. They actually have their next meeting in October in South Korea. There's another organization called ISMA.TV, which is their website. They already published like a DRM standard in which some vendors to use, and I think their CTO is working for Apple Computer, having the thing on the QuickTime. So there are ITU, ISMA.TV, and a few other organizations trying to push and to create an IPTV standard for the industry. As we mentioned earlier, the standard is more for a telecom who is running IPTV on their own network. Okay, so the next section we'll talk about the countermeasures. We'll talk about how a telecom could protect themselves, what kind of things they might want to consider to do regarding to organization, policies, procedures, and technology they are going to use. So organization-wise, basically you pretty much need to have the security from the beginning. Most of the telecoms have their internal security team already, and so when you add a new service, you pretty much just need new people who know or who understand the technology and able to contribute and work with existing security teams to define all the information. So you need integration with current security teams, and you make sure those security teams are responsible for security program management and from planning to deployment and also incident response. IPTV is a new thing. Probably not many people knows about what constitutes as IPTV fraud. Okay, so it's probably a little bit hard to do the correlation or to do event management at this point. However, those are the things that a security team needs to do. And secure development lifecycle. So most of the telecom, they are not going to develop their own in-house solution for IPTV. They will rely on external vendors' existing product, customize them, and use them in on the field. So it's very important for the security team to evaluate, test, and response for the technology they are going to use to provide their service. And gap analysis is important for them to understand, before you adopt IPTV service and after you adopt IPTV services, how has your security been either improved or staying at the same place, or it's getting worse. Okay, so you need to, the team basically needs to understand the security baseline at the beginning and keep tracking of that, update the status as new technology are involved. So the next one is program and procedures. Basically, one thing we identify is that a lot of the vulnerabilities, if the telecom could control the access control list very well, then you can pretty much mitigate or eliminate a lot of problems. For example, if I want to control my neighbor's set-top box, and basically the telecom could pretty much set an access control list on the router that I would be talking to, and to forbid any traffic going from another set-top box, or one set-top box to another set-top box. So pretty much you can try to prevent that by setting up a good ACO. And it's very important for the change management procedure, because a lot of times you are looking at thousands of router rules, switch rules that people will get confused and no one knows what this rule is for, and it could accidentally be taken off, and people will have the opportunity to go back to utilize the security problem. And then you need an incident response program. Basically, you need to make sure you are able to recognize any problem. For example, your service is down, you need to be able to know the problem, and you need to be able to respond to find out what's the problem. And you need to learn the lesson from the problem and evolve your architecture or your product, your technology in the future. Okay, and security evaluation program and procedure. For whatever technology you're going to use, pretty much you have to evaluate the security in technology and also deployment. You look for best practice. You look for whether the product has been tested for things we mentioned about, like buffer overflows, like file system traversal, different type of security problems before you buy them or adopt them. Technology, when you want to use a product, of course you want to make sure that it's a secured product. You will look at the vendors if they have secured SDLC, if they perform security evaluation before they sell you the product. And you want to look for deployment best practices and see if the vendor understands where your environment will be and what's their recommendation for you to secure your environment. Major security impact to performance. Security is a trade-off, so you want more performance, and sometimes you might not be able to make it as secure as possible. Sometimes DRM could cause performance impact. You might have to have 1,000 servers instead of 600 servers to handle the same traffic. It's always a trade-off, and if you work for the telecom, you definitely have to do the trade-off according to your measurement and compare to the performance. Monitor and management. Basically, if you want to do incident response, you want to do fraud detection, you have to be able to monitor the whole traffic and manage all the events. So how do you recognize IPTV fraud, for example? And bring security into standards. Okay, it will be good. We have been seeing, if you go to ITU website, especially the IPTV work group sub website, you will see a lot of input documentations from different companies. They are already contributing to the work group regarding to putting security into the standards. Most of the concern right now they have still protecting the content, which means DRM. And as Bruce Snyder said earlier this morning, that's a technology protecting the user against the user. Well, it's not protecting the user, but it's against the user. It's protecting the content against the user. Those ITU, those organizations, they need to understand this, some of the security issues, not just only the DRM. Conclusion, basically IPTV has been adopted as one of the triple play strategy, as we mentioned earlier. Okay, so in the future it's going to be evolved into multiplay. The multiplay will involve more like mobile phone television, more interactive application, online games, online ATM and different applications. And that's how people are calling that multiplay. I think HP is trying to sell a lot of the interactive multimedia management system to the telecoms moving toward this multiplay. So when you're talking about more technologies, there are more issues about deployment, about best practice, about securing the whole system, and then it's easier to create a mistake when you have thousands of things to care. And yeah, so that's pretty much the trend. Excuse me. And the risk still exists because there are vulnerabilities in technology, as we mentioned. Buffer overflows, file system traversal, weak TCP/IP stack. Those are the vulnerabilities in technology. And we also have weakness in deployment. When people deploy the architecture or the whole IPTV service infrastructure, they did not secure the whole infrastructure. They did not change the default password. They did not protect the service or the device well. And the last thing is incomplete or insecure processes. So basically, after you deploy that, you don't have a good change management rule or the change management procedure. So you might accidentally take off a router rule or a firewall rule and letting people getting into your network. Okay. The countermeasures we talked about earlier, you have to do it through organization, process, procedures, security deployment, choosing the secure technology, and so on, in order to mitigate technology risk and make sure you create a security awareness in your organization to let people know. Okay, so that's pretty much the presentation for today. There are 5 minutes left, so we will open, or actually, it's not. We're open for any question or answer. If not, then thank you very much for the conference and everyone here.